As news about the Unabomber killing himself in his jail cell June 10th spread across the country, one Capital Region community felt a particular connection. A tip from Schenectady is what led to the Unabomber's capture. Ted Kaczynski carried out a 17-year bombing campaign. It killed 3 people and injured 23 others. It came to an end when his brother David and sister-in-law Linda Patrick realized the Unabomber was related to them and turned him into the FBI. That was in 1996. This is Chris Bruner's original report from outside the Kaczynski home.
When authorities in Montana announced they had arrested Ted Kaczynski and that he was the Unabomber suspect, the first question was, how did they find out? The answer to that is here at 1266 Keys Avenue in Schenectady, the home of Ted's brother, David Kaczynski, and his wife, Linda Patrick. Since early this morning, an army of media people have been camped out waiting to hear the Kaczynski's story, with no luck. There is one other local connection to the Unabomber saga. 18 years ago, when it all started, a package addressed to an RPI professor was found in a parking lot in Chicago. It exploded in the hands of a security officer in Illinois. No indication of why the now retired RPI professor's name was on the address label. The Kaczynskis of Schenectady apparently found some suspicious papers at the Unabomber suspect's former home in Chicago that resembled the Unabomber's rambling manifesto sent to newspapers last year. David Kaczynski's truck is here at the house, but there is no indication that anyone is home. In the meantime, local kids are doing a thriving entrepreneurial business feeding the media encampment. And local businesses have been passing out cards offering other freebies.
They actually get something free?
So while we wait, the Kaczynskis may be home, or they could be long gone.
The media presence became a bit overkill. Representatives of the family urged reporters to go home after telling them the family was not interested in giving an interview. At that request, News Channel 13 decided to honor it. Here's Paul Conti, the news director at the time.
But we're not going to camp in front of their door waiting for them to eventually poke their head out and say whatever they have to say. So if they did that, we would miss that, but I'll live with that.
The first reporter to interview Ted's brother, David, was Dan Levy. I sat down with him. Joined now by Dan Levy. And Dan, you were the first reporter to interview the brother.
I remember back in 1996, we received a tip that David Kaczynski was flying back into town. We knew he was coming into Albany Airport. We weren't sure which flight it was or what time, but we had the evening. So I just staked out the airport. And when the flight came in, I can't even remember if he was with his wife at the time, but I recognized him because we had a picture of David. We knew what he looked like. And I just approached him and I asked, "Are you David Kaczynski?" He said, "Yes." And I identified myself and I said, "Can I ask you a couple of quick questions about your brother?" He said, "Sure." And he gave me a few minutes of time. It was a remarkable story. It was a remarkable time. This captivated the nation, this story, for a period of 20 years. Keep in mind, Ted Kaczynski was responsible for killing 3 people and injuring 23 more. This was the longest and most expensive manhunt in the country up until that point. Everybody wanted to find out who this person was, who the Unabomber was, and part of this story just wound up in our own backyard. David Kaczynski, at the time, I can't remember everything he said, but it was 27 years ago. He said, "You just can't believe how painful this was, knowing that turning in my brother could lead to his death." And it actually led to his incarceration until just recently, when apparently he committed suicide in prison. But, it was David Kaczynski who recognized some of the phrases, some of the words in his brother's massive 35,000-word manifesto. He thought that technology was ruining the human race. And David recognized that, contacted the FBI. One thing led to another. Then they found the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, in his Montana cabin back in April 1996.
That's crazy. So what went through your head when you first realized that this story might have a Capital Region tie?
Well, I was trying to figure out what must be going through David's mind. Can you or can anyone imagine what it's like to turn in a sibling, to turn in a family member for a crime like this? David, after his brother was incarcerated, convicted, he became an advocate, an activist against the death penalty. He was the executive director of New Yorkers Against the Death Penalty for about a decade in the early part of this 20th century. And I've kind of lost track of David since. I was reading up on him. I know that he became executive director of a Buddhist monastery down in the Catskill region also. But both of these brothers were brilliant people. Ted especially. Ted graduated from high school at age 16. He was accepted at Harvard. He got a mathematics degree, and he was a professor at the University of California at Berkeley at age 25.
Wow.
And some of the circuitry went awry, and that's what happened to him.
Wow. What a crazy story. Well, Dan, thank you for your time talking about what it was like covering that.
My pleasure.
Kaczynski was 81 years old and suffering from late-stage cancer. For more of our original coverage of big events, head to our News Channel 13 YouTube page and click on News Vault. Opening News Vault 13, I'm Rachel Teedy.